Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stephen King Cast, one man's musings on the works of Stephen King. Each week, I'll review one entry in the bibliography of Stephen King in the chronological order of publication. And what I am doing this week, this is not technically a new episode. It is an old episode with a new intro. I'm attaching a new intro on this. So, the reason that I'm doing this is because over the weekend, or at the tail end of last week, news broke that the Tommyknockers, one of Stephen King's most divisive novels, very notorious novel, but very divisive, was being set to be made into a feature-length film. And guys, I'm sorry for the noise in the background. I don't know if the microphone is picking this up or not, but one of my furry co-hosts is just nesting. She's settling in for the night. She's grooming herself. She's been ignored all day long. Now I'm with her, so she's happy. But when she gets happy, she tends to get very, very breathy and snorty. Oh, and she's getting closer. She wants to say hi. So I do apologize for that. That's not going to be heard throughout the entirety of this episode. But oh, there she goes. But she might be making some noise in the background of this episode. My other pug is passed out on the other side of the couch. Okay, so the Tommyknockers, which was adapted in the 90s for an ABC TV miniseries, is coming to the big screen. So I thought that was a really good time to re-release my episode in which I reviewed the book, The Tommyknockers, because that was a real highlight of the Stephen King cast, being able to revisit the Tommyknockers without any, just to strip away the negativity around it and just, look at it for what it is. And what it is an extremely and incredibly fun sci-fi romp in the vein of, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, set in Maine. As I said before in the review, Stephen King, for all of his small town horror, he doesn't really tell stories set within the woods. There are some exceptions. The Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon comes to mind, but he doesn't really do woodsy horror very much. And so for the story to kick off with a discovery of something buried in the woods, that itself is such a strong hook and a great concept, and it explores the woods in a way that King never really did before. So that all of the book, I think, as I'll explain in my pretty lengthy review of the Tommyknockers, it's fun. It's a very, very fun, high concept, completely batshit story that I believe gets maligned a little bit too much. But I do want to read from Slash Film about the upcoming adaptation. Not that there's much to know, but I still want to read what Slash Film had to say. So this is from Chris Evangelista. The Tommyknockers is the latest work to jump aboard the Stephen King adaptation train. Following the blockbuster success of It, adaptations of King's work are in high demand. Now, the Conjuring director James Wan and It producer Roy Lee will team to bring King's 1987 horror sci-fi novel The Tommyknockers to the screen. More on the Tommyknockers movie below. Everybody wants to be in the Stephen King business, including James Wan. The Hollywood Reporter confirms Conjuring and Insidious director Wan and It producer Roy Lee are joining forces to set up a new film adaptation of King's The Tommyknockers. Wan and Lee are working with producer Larry Sanitsky, who also produced the 1993 miniseries adaptation of The Tommyknockers. If this all works out, Larry Santisky will be the only person in history to produce two versions of The Tommyknockers. Someone called the Guinness World Records. The producers are putting their offer for the adaptation to both major studios and streaming services, including Netflix. Netflix might be quick to bite, since last year they shepherded two other King adaptations, Gerald's Game and 1922. What is The Tommyknockers? The Tommyknockers is one of King's rare forays into science fiction. The story involves a centuries-old alien structure that gives anyone who comes into contact with it strange, inhuman, and destructive powers. King was inspired by the H.P. Lovecraft story The Color Out of Space. Here's the plot synopsis. On a beautiful June day, while walking deep in the woods on her property in Haven, Maine, Bobby Anderson quite literally stumbles over her own destiny and that of the entire town. For the dull gray metal protrusion she discovers in the ground is part of a mysterious and massive metal object, one that may have been buried there for a millennia. Bobby can't help but become obsessed and try to dig it out, the consequences of which will affect and transmute every citizen of Haven, young and old. It means unleashing extraordinary powers beyond those of mere mortals, and certain death for any and all outsiders. An alien hell has now invaded this small New England town, an aggressive and violent malignancy devoid of any mercy or sanity. It's worth noting that King himself doesn't particularly care for the book. The prolific best-selling author penned the Tommyknockers while he was battling his addiction to alcohol and drugs. Years later, the author said, "The Tommyknockers is an awful book. That was the last one I wrote before I cleaned up my act, and I've thought a lot about it lately and said to myself, there's a really good book in here, underneath all sorts of spurious energy that cocaine provides, and I ought to go back. The book is about 700 pages long, and I'm thinking, there's probably a good 350-page novel in there." The story itself, which involves people becoming addicted to the destructive power of the alien craft, can be read as an allegory for King's struggles with addiction. Producer Larry Santiski said as much in a statement obtained by THR. The Tommyknockers is an allegorical tale of addiction. The threat of nuclear power, the danger of mass hysteria, and the absurdity of technical evolution run amok. All are as relevant today as the day the novel was written. It's also the tale about the eternal power of love and the grace of redemption. The author continues by writing, "I myself am a very big Stephen King fan, but I share King's belief that Tommyknockers is indeed an awful book. That said, I also agree with King's statement that there is a good story in there somewhere, and perhaps James Wan and Roy Lee can nurture it with this new adaptation." So I don't necessarily agree with the author about the value of the book, but I do want to say this. I am a really big James Wan fan. I really think that he does horror so well. The Conjuring, guys, I had so much fun watching The Conjuring in the theater when that first came out. That when my wife and I went to go see it, it was just one of those perfect movies to see around opening night. It wasn't opening night. It might have been like the week after, but still, I mean, the buzz around that movie when it came out, it was big. It was a big summer hit. And it's just fun to see a good horror movie in the theaters and have everyone jump at all the right times and laugh, because they jump. And so it was good, spooky, scary, creepy, dread, jump out of your seat, fun horror. And he does that very, very well. He does spooky very, very well. And I like Insidious too. And Insidious 2, there's some nice riffs on The Shining there with, spoiler alert for Insidious 2, Patrick Wilson kind of playing a Jack Torrance type of role, and Patrick Wilson hams it up, and it's great. So James Wan is fun, he's spooky, and so when I heard Tommyknockers coming to the big stream, I got excited anyway. But then when I heard James Wan doing it, I got really excited and knew that this actually could be something of worth, and that he really could do something with the imagery inherent within the Tommyknockers, because it's a very visual novel. The greens set against the black, the darkness of the woods, emanating from darkened houses and from the basement, and just the crazy inventions that everyone starts coming up with, and flying Coke machines, and just the alien spacecraft itself, and the mystery and the paranoia, and guard battling his addiction. It's rooted in a humanity for all the inhumanity that exists within the novel. I do believe that yes, this could be a lot of fun as a movie, and maybe it can help legitimize the book itself. And with the fact that the Tommyknockers has been kind of making the rounds over the weekend due to this this news coming out, I thought that it was good for me to release to re-release my episode, because I definitely want the Tommyknockers to get some love, because it really is worth your time. If you haven't read it, it really is worth your time. I will admit that it is long, and that is a criticism that I myself lob at it during my review. It takes 50 pages to get going, and even then it doesn't get going, but we stick. Well, I'll say that in the review. So I do have some issues with it, but for the most part it is fun. But look, the Tommyknockers was not the only story that coming out of the Stephen King universe over this weekend, because The Stand was talked about as well. Now bear with me on this one because there's no real confirmation. But again, from Chris Evangelista from Slash Film, I want to read this about The Stand. A new adaptation of Stephen King's massive post-apocalyptic novel The Stand has been brewing for years. The Fault in Our Stars and the New Mutants director Josh Boone has been attached to direct the adaptation since 2014, but the project has been delayed. Now an update has arrived. The Stand might end up as a 10-hour CBS All Access series. More on The Stand series below. Just what in the name of Captain Trips is going on with the new adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand? New Mutants director Josh Boone has been attached to helm a new take on King's Tome of Terror for years, but the project hit a roadblock and ended up in limbo sometime around 2016. Now we finally have an update. The tracking board reports that Boone is still attached and that the adaptation is coming together as a 10-hour limited series at CBS All Access. CBS All Access is a CBS subscription streaming service home to Star Trek Discovery and The Good Fight. King's lengthy novel concerns the breakdown of a society following a mutated flu outbreak that kills 99% of humanity in the span of a few weeks. The book focuses on two specific sets of survivors. The group led by benevolent 108-year-old woman named Mother Abigail, and a group led by Randall Flagg, a demonic supernatural figure who wants to spread chaos. The book was previously adapted into a 1994 miniseries. The news that The Stand might become a new series is just the latest entry in an ever-mutating history surrounding possible adaptations of King's book. The Stand adaptation history. In 2011, a new Stand adaptation was announced, with the Harry Potter team of David Yates and screenwriter Stephen Kloves in charge of the project, with a plan to possibly adapt the book into 3 films. This news was short-lived because later in 2011, Yates was out and Ben Affleck became attached to helm the film. In 2012, Ben Affleck provided an update on his Stand adaptation, saying that the scripting was proving difficult. Right now, we're having a very hard time, but I like the idea. It's like Lord of the Rings in America, and it's about how we would reinvent ourselves as a society. If we started all over again, what would we do? By 2014, Affleck had departed, and Warner Brothers tapped Josh Boone, director of Fault in Our Stars, to helm. After Boone joined the film, word broke that the adaptation was now being planned as 4 films. Boone said he was throwing out earlier drafts, which treated the material more like a summer blockbuster than a film focused on characters. I'm going to interject myself, which is I'm very, very glad to hear that, because reports from the working draft of the previous script was pretty rough. With kind of sounds like the approach that they would later take. Not they, the great they in the skies, but Akiva Goldsman. And the production company that wound up creating the Dark Tower. So Josh Boone will write, these drafts were not so much where I thought they should be going with it. They were much more like a bigger summer blockbuster. When I thought about The Stand, it's so much about the vast network of characters and all their problems. It's kind of morality play set in a post-apocalyptic America. The battle between good and evil is the battle for these people's souls. They make choices which dictate the fate of humanity. Boone then added that he initially pitched Warner Brothers on one 3-hour movie. I really wanted to do an A-list actor, really grounded, credible version of the movie. I sold them on that, and they hired me. I sold them on a single 3-hour movie. I went and got King sold on it, and everyone's really excited. I told the story non-linear, and that was the way I was gonna be able to compress the book and get everything into the script. You open with Mother Abigail dying and sending the guys off, then you jump back in time. So what happened is the script gets finished. I write it in like 5 months. Everybody loves it. King loves it. $87 million is what was budgeted at. A really expensive for a horror drama that doesn't really have set pieces. After his pitch, however, Warner's asked if he wanted to do multiple films. They came back and said, would you do it as multiple films? And I said, fuck yes. I love my script, and I was willing to drop it in an instant because you're able to do an even truer version that way. So I think we're going to do it like 4 movies. I can't tell you anything about how we're going to do them or what's going to be in which movie. I'll just say that we're going to do 4 movies, and we're going to do The Stand at the highest level you can do it at, with a cast that's going to blow people's minds. We've already been talking to lots of people and have a lot of people on board in certain roles that people don't know about. We're looking to go into production next year, maybe in the spring. Then let's see. Later in 2014, word broke that Matthew McConaughey was reportedly in talks to play Randall Flagg, the main villain of the story. That fell through, though, and McConaughey would go on to star in another King adaptation, The Dark Tower. In 2015, rumors surfaced that Boone and Warner Brothers were talking to Showtime about airing an 8-part miniseries of The Stand that would act as a lead-up to The Stand movie, which would hit theaters after the series ends. Oof. By 2016, however, Boone's The Stand was on hold. Boone then considered adapting another King book, Revival. Later in 2016, producer Roy Lee, who would later produce 2017's It, offered an update on the project. Right now, it's just in a holding pattern, trying to find out how to best make the movie because we've toyed with breaking up into multiple movies, making it into one, making it into two. The latest draft, Josh Boone had written it, and he was very anxious to make it, but since then he has written another script, Revival, which he's going to do beforehand, so we're just waiting for that. Lee also revealed that the idea of a TV series leading into the film was dead. There was definitely talk about doing that, but the logistics made it very difficult to try and do a worldwide launch of a movie when the TV component would not be necessarily released at the same time worldwide, so it became a logistic nightmare to try and find that out, so the plan was abandoned. Since then, all has been quiet on the Stand front. Now comes word of the CBS All Access series. Honestly, this makes the most sense. There is just too much story to fit The Stand into one movie, and the idea of breaking it up into multiple movies never sat right with me. A limited series, however, would be able to do King's work justice. Now we'll just have to see if it happens. So, as we all know, we are in the midst of a King Assance. We're in the reigning age of the King right now. So, a King adaptation will happen. Honestly, I would like to see the vistas of a post-apocalyptic America on the big screen. I know that for long-form storytelling and the intense character breakdowns, it's probably better suited for television or a streaming service, but I think there's something to be said about a big story being told on the big screen. And that's where I would like to see it. Not as one movie, but I mean, if we're going to do a real character piece, a morality play in the wastelands of America, and it is treated with respect, and it is treated as a drama with some horror elements to it, and it isn't treated like a big action movie, but a reflective nature on humanity, then if it is treated like that, and it's treated adult, then I think that it would work wonders on the screen. I think that there would be an audience for it. It would just need to be done right. So when I hear more information, I'll definitely share it with you guys. In the meantime, a quick update on the status of the Stephen King cast. So those of you who have been following me on Twitter, which you can do so at Stephen King Cast at Twitter, at Stephen King Cast, or Instagram or Facebook, or write me at stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. But on Twitter, I did kind of announce what the upcoming months were going to look like. So I am in the middle of prepping a bunch of episodes to release so that when I start really getting back in the game on a weekly basis, that I know for sure that I'll be back, and you guys can rely on me to be back for a good stretch during the summer. So currently what you can expect coming up, you can get my thoughts on the stories I didn't cover in the short story collections of the following collections: Skeleton Crew, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Just After Sunset, Everything's Eventual. Then you also have my thoughts on the Lawnmower Man movie. And then, guys, I just watched Mr. Mercedes on Direct TV. Now, my thoughts on Mr. Mercedes, the book, I've discussed at length in my review of Mr. Mercedes, along with my review of Finders Keepers and End of Watch. And then, podcasts afterwards, I have discussed my dislike of Mr. Mercedes. Now, when I reviewed episodes 1 and 2, which had been free, and it was DirecTV's way of luring you in, I really enjoyed it. And then I was upset that I couldn't watch the rest of it. But what I wound up doing, and you can do this too, if you want to binge it, you can sign up for a 7-day trial of DirecTV and then watch all of Mr. Mercedes. And I'm telling you, it is worth it. And it's actually, I would say it's probably worth, DirecTV, shilling out actually, I don't know how much DirecTV is, but I'm very excited about the second season, and I'm looking forward to sharing all of my thoughts on the first season of Mr. Mercedes. So when I'm done with the short stories, my thoughts on Stephen King's short stories, I will be talking about the episodes of the first season of Mr. Mercedes, and then we have The Outsider by Stephen King coming out this spring. So I'll be reviewing that, and then this summer I do want to get into some interviews. With some Stephen King super fans out there that are creating art. There's some people I've been talking to that I would like to kind of pick their brain, and some previous guests that I would like to have come back. And then, as we know, we have Castle Rock that will be debuting at some point. So I'll be sharing all my thoughts about Castle Rock then. So that is what I have set in stone for the near foreseeable future of the Stephen King cast. But on top of that, I'm also launching a second podcast for fans of David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Hanging with Agent Cooper is the name of it. And beginning in May, on the anniversary of Twin Peaks The Return, I will be reviewing each episode of Twin Peaks The Return on the anniversary of when that particular episode aired last year. Because now that we are just about a year removed from the premiere of Twin Peaks The Return, a lot of the coverage there had been a lot of coverage, and there had been a lot of think pieces, a lot of articles, a lot of blogs, a lot of podcasts about Twin Peaks The Return, but it was on a weekly basis and sort of trying to unscramble what you saw on Sunday night without really truly knowing the big picture. And then even once you know the big picture, it is still almost impossible to truly unscramble and detangle and understand what David Lynch and Mark Frost were painting on the canvas in front of you. So, rather than looking at it brushstroke by brushstroke, which is what so much of the conversation was last year. Now that the paint is dry, I have stepped back. I've looked at the painting, and then I just want to share my thoughts on what that painting is, and hopefully we'll try and make some sense of it together. So that will be an 18-part. It'll be an 18-plus part podcast, and that's one that I'm excited about. So I'll probably drop an episode sometime later this month in April, just to prepare everyone for it, so it can be in your podcast feeds, and so you'll be ready once I start dropping new episodes every Sunday night, beginning May 21st, I believe, or May 23rd. So that's what you can get ready for this spring from me in terms of the Stephen King cast and Hanging with Agent Cooper, a Twin Peaks podcast. So guys, that's all that I have right now. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the Tommyknockers and the Stand, and prepare you guys for what to expect for the world of Stephen King cast, the world of Twin Peaks. And so for the rest of this episode is me reviewing the Tommyknockers. I hope you enjoy, and stick around for my next episode, which will be coming very, very soon in the next couple weeks. So guys, thanks as always for sticking around, for listening to me rambling on. And if you have a few minutes on your hands, a review on iTunes would really, really help me out. And as always, any thoughts that you have on Stephen King, you can send me an email at stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. I'll read it on the mail. One thing that I would really like to hear is some Stand fan casting. If we're casting the Stand, and Josh Boone is looking for A-list actors, what A-list actors do you want to see in the roles of our main characters in the Stand? That's always fun. I like doing fan casting. So guys, send those over to stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. And may you have long days and pleasant nights, and I'll see you here next time where MOON spells Stephen King Cast.